Hey guys, this is Buca. Welcome to BucaNation. We're going to have a Trump night tonight. We have a couple of great guests coming on tonight. We have Michael Johns, part of the Tea Party. Let's see, he's coming up right now. One second. Can you hear me, Michael? Well, as Michael gets in here, we're also going to have Sawyer Burmeister on tonight. Sawyer is a Trump supporter. She has got an amazing story, and we're going to bring her on around 9 o'clock. Michael is actually at the DNC convention, I believe, and so he's working to find his best spot to come in on the webcam. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what's going on. The RNC had a convention last week, and it's incredible. Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, and never in anybody's wildest dreams did anyone think that was going to happen. And it's one of those things for such a time as this. So, Michael, I can see that your link is there. Are you with me? Well, I tell you what, we'll keep working to get you here. It's a crazy world we live in right now. There are horrible things. I was just reading as we're coming on what happened in France today at a Catholic church. ISIS members went into a Catholic church during Mass and beheaded a priest. What the hell is going on, people? The world we live in is exploding, and the administration we have is sitting back, and it's just it's talking about peace is fine, and John Kerry's running around saying air conditioning is as big a threat to us as ISIS. It's a joke. My wife and I tonight, we went out to dinner. We're sitting in a restaurant. It is packed. I'm sitting in the back corner watching every window, watching every door. What are we living in? Hey, brother.
Buca, how are you?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Struggling with my video here, but
that's all right. Don't worry about the video. Let's just lock me down and we'll get going.
Okay, very good.
So, are you at the DNC?
Yeah, I'm outside right now. You know, caught a number of events, a little bit of media. You know, these things are sort of colossal gatherings of the political class. It's sort of interesting, but you know, our Tea Party movement has sort of arisen here over the last 7 years, and is you know, I guess in some people's eyes considered a part of that. So I was actually out in Cleveland, and you know, and now I'm here in Philadelphia.
Well, do me a favor. Let's take a few minutes and tell everybody about you and your background and how you came about being a part of the Tea Party.
Well, yeah, the story's kind of fascinating. I mean, you know, firstly, I have about a quarter of a century of experience here in politics, public affairs. I've been, you know, active all the way back to college in University of Miami in Florida, where I was president of College Republicans, and you know, I'd done a good deal of work in D.C. and I came out, you know, sort of in the midst of the Reagan presidency, and really wanted to be a part of that. Spent some time in D.C., 5 years at the Heritage Foundation. Went on to work with a number of what I guess would arguably be called moderate Republicans, Governor Tom Kean in New Jersey, and President George H.W. Bush, and I was a speechwriter for him in the Bush 41 White House. And I worked in the Senate with Olympia Snow. You know, and then I've gone on and, you know, kind of had a private sector healthcare career. But in 2009, I was one of, I guess, 2 or 3 people that had seen the rant from the CNBC, Rick Santelli rant from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and we, you know, just me and a couple colleagues had exchanged some emails about it. We set up a phone call. And that phone call has now become an iconic one. because it really gave birth to the Tea Party movement. I mean, we originally had planned to do a series of events on April 15th of 2009, but you know, that we got such momentum out of it, Buca, that we, you know, really saw that this was more than a day. It really became a movement. And of course, the story from there is pretty well known. You know, we went on, had very significant impact in 2010 with the defeat of Nancy Pelosi and taking back of the House and taking back the Senate in 2014. And we've enrolled probably, by my estimate, 30 million probably ballpark new Americans in the political process, people that were either dormant on the sidelines or not, you know, really sufficiently motivated, but were sympathetic with the positions of the Tea Party, which, you know, are pretty simplistic, actually, as you, I'm sure, well know. I mean, they're pretty, you know, they're both simultaneously simple and yet simultaneously hugely important: adherence to the Constitution, limited government, and you know, the TEA, of course, tax enough already. The fact that we need to and want to have a cut in you know, in taxes, and particularly for working Americans. You know, I'm very big right now on a suspension or even an elimination of the payroll tax, which I think is really hitting the working poor in a disproportionately large way. So that's kind of a big issue at the moment. And then throughout the process, I've done a lot. You know, I mean, at Heritage Foundation, I was one of the original advocates, even architects of the Reagan Doctrine, which supported the resistance movements against the former Soviet Empire. And, you know, in my judgment, the efforts that were exerted by the Reagan administration and conservatives in Congress during that time period were crucial in ending the Cold War. You know, we're in a very different era now. And, you know, I think I've had these enduring principles of conservatism, and they've just simply been applied throughout my career to, you know, the challenges that we faced. And the challenges we face today, as you correctly said at the open, are monstrous.
It's nuts, man. It's incredible what's going on. So I've got a question for you, and I've got feedback, so I apologize about that. When somebody looks up the Tea Party online, when just the average Joe,
right,
you get all of these different options. Is there an official Tea Party platform being set at a certain location? How do people know that they're going to the right spot when they're looking for the Tea Party?
Well, that's a very good question. Firstly, the organization that I'm president and executive director of is a group called Tea Party Community. It's very social in nature, somewhat similar in format even to Facebook. We've got 200,000 members, which makes us one of the largest Tea Party organizations in the country. And I would heavily encourage people to get involved in that organization. But as you point out, there are some other ones. I've been either a member or a leader of, you know, in almost all of them. And, you know, we've coordinated our efforts to the extent possible. I mean, like any political movement, there have been some disagreements along the way. Some of those have been sort of, unfortunately, publicly reported. But all in all, I think the three principles that I laid out are ones that no one in a leadership position in the Tea Party movement would really dispute. You know, we have consensus on that, and I think we have a consensus on the fact that we have to win this election in 2016. There was not, unfortunately, consensus on the nominee. I was, as you probably know, one of the first and loudest advocates of the Trump candidacy. I do believe in this man. And maybe it's because I'm from the East Coast and I've sort of watched some of the incredible things that this man's done through his lifetime. I also believe that he's sort of cut for this moment. You know, the issues that he's raising in this campaign are crucially important at this moment in our history. That, you know, I may have felt differently 10 years ago. I may feel differently 10 years from now. But right now, you know, I really feel very enthusiastic about the Trump candidacy. And yes, there are some rough edges. I'm not a complete apologist for everything there, but that's what comes with the territory when you haven't spent your whole life kind of gearing up to run for president, like the woman we just saw nominated today here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I look at the RNC and everybody freaking out about Trump, and you look at our last three or four nominees. They haven't been conservatives, not real conservatives.
Not at all. I mean, that really has been a point that I've made, I guess, more privately than publicly. But don't just be blunt about it. I mean, I was not at all enthusiastic about John McCain in 2008. In fact, I'm very involved in the campaign to replace him right now in Arizona. I support Kelly Ward for Senate out there in the August 9th primary. I honestly do believe she has a reasonable chance of winning. But, once McCain secured that nomination, and I'm sure you were the same, I mean, I was all hands on deck. I voted for him with enthusiasm, and I, certainly did everything that I could within our existing conservative movement to say that we needed to win that election. And I tried my best to warn the nation about the dangers that I knew Obama presented at that time. And then again, in 2012, I mean, I just thought Mitt Romney, something there, I didn't think, maybe it's because I grew up in a blue collar area and I kind of know, I think, the type of voters that we're not getting that we need to be appealing to, but I didn't see Romney really having a message that was resonating with working class Americans. And that's unfortunate because I think he was the better of the two candidates for working class Americans, but his message was very, not well articulated and not exactly, that is something he resonated. But yet, like 2008, I mean, I voted for him with enthusiasm. I never complained about these nominees in public. And so out in Cleveland, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is a foregone conclusion. And we still have, I'm going to avoid mentioning the names, but people that you would recognize, out there, credible people that I've worked side by side with, trying to get somewhere with this Never Trump movement. And over what? I mean, that's what you just said is exactly right, Buca. I mean, what is not conservative about this man? He's going to secure the border. He's going to destroy ISIS. He's going to repeal Obamacare. He's going to cut taxes and cut them substantially. He's going to return education to the states and get rid of Common Core. I mean, I just think this says, I think policy is really the deceptive excuse that they've given for opposing him. And it's really been more about the fact that they haven't felt they've had the access, or they don't feel he's going to play the game like they're used to playing. And let me tell you this, every Never Trump advocate out there somehow seems to connect back to Washington, D.C. They may not be in Washington, D.C., but they seem to be. I've noticed it just seems hugely connected. In that world, it operates like a business. I mean, quite honestly, when I was there, I don't even think I fully understood that. And I never operated like I was part of a business. But ultimately, that's been the problem with the Republican National Committee. That's even been the problem with the Washington, D.C.-based conservative movement, is that the metrics that we would use to assess whether we're winning or losing are some, we would have to say we start with elections. Like, if we're not winning elections, it doesn't, like, what's the point really? If we're writing great books, or, if we've launched a TV network, or we got a new think tank, I mean, that stuff doesn't matter to the American people. What matters is that we're putting in place policies that are going to preserve liberty and advance the interests of the American people.
Look, I'm Joe Schmo nobody. I'm just a guy, and I think the majority of Republicans that I know feel like me. And I've watched for the last, let's just go back 8 years since Obama got elected, and then all the work you guys did in getting the House back and taking over the Senate and finally having something where, look, Obama's going to put out his agenda. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to represent his people, put out his agenda. And we elected our people to get up there and stop them, to have balls and go fight. And these people bent over, and Paul Ryan gives them whatever the hell he wants. And guys like me are sitting here going, what the hell are you people doing? Stop them. At least put up a fight. Pretend you're going to fight. Talk trash or something.
And that's been part of my message throughout the Tea Party movement, really, literally from that very first call that I mentioned. I was the only one on that call that had any degree of political experience, But I said, look, we're not going to win this stuff with the old style of approach, you know. So just to take your opening remarks that you're just a guy on the sidelines or whatever, I would challenge that. You're not. You know, we're all sort of equal in this thing. Our power comes through our numbers, and your ability to reach out and represent, you know, our vision to others is like anyone else. It's hugely important, and that's why this movement has been reasonably successful, is because we have not had any degree of pretentiousness in it. We've been inclusionary, not exclusionary, and frankly, I think we even need to do a better job at that than we have been doing. So, I mean, that's just crucially important. And then I know that there are just millions of Americans out there who do understand largely what we're up against. They understand that we're not going to get a second shot at this thing. You know, we're closer to peril with each passing year. We're engaged in a world war right now. I think we ought to be completely honest about that. We face a world war in ISIS. And you know the story about this administration and not being able to even identify the enemy by name, but you know, in our economic capabilities and job creation, or just on every metric that you would look at for this administration over the last 7.5 years, it's been an absolute train wreck. And for this administration and this president to be sitting out there sort of describing it like they've done an okay job, I don't know if they believe that or don't believe it. Maybe they believe it, but you know, there's just simply no way you can come to that conclusion. I mean, unemployment, we got 95 million Americans not in the workforce, all-time high. It's an incredibly large number of Americans. We've lost our influence and credibility abroad. We've betrayed our allies. We've, you know, allowed our enemies to advance. We now have literally a terrorist movement active on the American homeland. We've had, you know, an erosion of private sector job creation and private sector opportunities. I believe in erosion of just social, I don't want to call it conservatism, just social normalcy in the culture, you know, in the sense that we've lost a lot of, and not we, but the country, the educational system, academia, you know, Hollywood has sort of abandoned a lot of the principles that have kind of always been at the core of American greatness. And now we've got a generation of American people that we really need to, you know, in this younger generation that I believe we've got to reach out to and, you know, speak some truth to. And I see a lot of promise there, but it's, you know, we're really up against it. And this is you know, my final point on this is we're up against the best in the business. I mean, you know, you know, don't be under any illusions about this. I mean, you know, one of the things I've noticed over the last 7 years, and I never even necessarily felt this before then, is like every step you take, every word you say, you know, every effort that you engage in is prone to misrepresentation. And, you know, there's this constant effort to try to delegitimize what they see as the enemy. And, you know, I'm going to be straight up. I mean, like you correctly said, they don't view the establishment GOP as the enemy. They view the Tea Party movement wing of the GOP as the enemy. And I mentioned that I supported Kelly Ward for Senate over McCain in Arizona. You mentioned Paul Ryan. I also support Paul Nellen for Congress in Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District. And I don't think this received enough attention, but I think there's a very good chance that Paul Ryan also could go down in their primaries the same day, August 9th. So this is a few weeks from now, and I'm sure you probably follow this race yourself, but I'm in touch with people on the ground there, you know, at the highest levels, and things are shifting. I mean, the people of Wisconsin are not liking what they've seen in Paul Ryan's representation of them. He's been a globalist, as you correctly say. He's more or less been in agreement on the key issues with the Obama administration. You know, he's pro this TPP trade deal, which is an absolute disaster. He's refused to defund Obamacare. He's refused to defund sanctuary cities. He's refused to defund executive amnesty measures, which are not even constitutional. And for even the government oversight, I mean, it's just been an absolute failure. I mean, just take the fact that we had in Hillary Clinton, a Secretary of State, the third most powerful person in this administration for 4 years, operating on a private server with 100% of her email communication. It took the New York Times to uncover that. That's what we have oversight committees for, to hold. That's the check and balance nature of our federal government. And I just think it's been completely ineffectual on Boehner's watch, and it might arguably be worse on Paul Ryan's watch.
Well, I'm going to tell you my feeling, and this is why I'm going back to something you said, that we're up against somebody who will fight and do whatever they have to do and be dirty. That is why I've been for Trump since the minute he came down that escalator. The minute, brother, I watched that on Periscope. Dan Scavano was periscoping it.
Yep.
And through this whole campaign, you're watching all these Republican candidates playing by the same old stupid rule book.
Yep.
And Trump came in and threw that rule book out the window, and you watched all of these people bust their ass to try to figure out what the hell was going on, and they couldn't do it.
Yep.
And I read that article about Jeb Bush, my former governor.
Yep.
Basically spent $50 million for each electoral vote.
Oh yeah, right. And he raised over 100. I mean,
$150 million. He got 3 votes, so all those 3 votes cost him $50 million each. And you sit here and you go, that is why going up against Hillary, we have to have this. And I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody wants him to be presidential. Everybody wants him. Screw that. I want him to keep doing what he's doing. Keep punching, punch hard, punch often, and piss everybody off, because at the end of the day, Hillary knows how to play the game. The Clintons know how to play the game the way the game has been set up for decades. And all of a sudden, there's a whole new game. There's a whole new board. And I'm going to tell you my personal opinion. I think he's going to wipe the floor with it. I think
it's certainly a winnable race. I mean, anyone who looks at it and says, which the Never Trump crowd was saying for the longest period of time, that he could not win, doesn't understand the political dynamics. And most of these are the same people that have not gotten out of, Washington, D.C. or its suburbs, and don't understand that out in the country, okay, and I travel all over the country. It's the same story every state. It's not just the Rust Belt. This country has been just surrendering jobs, surrendering opportunity, and hopelessness and drug addiction. And, the problems that exist are just so, I guess saddening is really the word I would look. They're sickening, but they're saddening simultaneously, because so many good people with so much to offer and so much to do have been swept into a culture of lost hope. And I totally understand how and why that can happen. And I guess it's up to us to kind of turn this thing around. And, I think you're totally right. Like here in Philly, I'm looking at these love trumps hate, and it's just another one of these meaningless cliches designed to delegitimize their political opponents. And I'm like, yeah, they talk about love. And that's what they do right before they call, Trump Hitler, basically, which is what they've been more or less doing. I mean, they're very sophisticated in their political messaging. They're constantly not just looking to debate. They don't really debate issues, if you've noticed. They use cliches. Like let's just take one of them, right? Hillary Clinton's not going to build walls. She's going to build bridges. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, that's great.
She's going to build bridges from Mexico to the United States, so drug cartels can walk across more easily. Seriously, I did look at her. I did, in fairness, to give her the benefit of the doubt, I read over her entire immigration plan. There's not one reference in there to anything that she would do to secure the border. Not one step. Not even some throwaway language that she would maintain, some degree of border patrol policy, whatever they believe they're doing right now. Just nothing. Like no sense of obligation to say anything about it. And this is a party that in the 21st century has just been taken over by the most radical elements that you can possibly fathom. And that's why. I mean, it's, at least in the late 20th century, you used to get some rhetoric from these guys about doing the right thing, and then they go do the wrong thing often. Now they don't even bother to say the right thing. And tonight to have the head of Planned Parenthood, which should be the most disgraced organization in the United States of America after what they did was with attempting to sell body parts of aborted fetuses, speaking to the Democratic Convention and being praised and held up as some sort of example of some higher cause should be sickening to all Americans.
Well, I tell you what, she's going to build a bridge, and it's going to bring over tens of thousands of undocumented Syrians.
Yep.
But here's where let me tell you. This is why I'm excited. This is why I firmly believe he's taken over and have taken over. He's going to blow her out. I look at the Bernie Sanders people. These young people, they're looking for change. They're looking for something different. They don't want the same old bullcrap.
Hey, God bless them. I mean, I think they're misguided on some fundamentals. But I've, put out the message repeatedly that, and this is my view on politics generally, is that, if we're going to find some areas of common ground, I want to work with these guys. I don't want them to see the Tea Party movement as the enemy. I don't want them to see the Trump campaign as their enemy. They've got it right on trade. They've got it right on the corruption of the political parties. They've got it right on the corrosive, negative influence of big money in politics. They've got it right on some real core fundamentals. So good for them. Let's work together on that stuff. Don't write us off, just because we, I think correctly, point out that socialism has not really succeeded anywhere in the history of man. I mean, that, I understand where they're going with that, but, we're about growing the pie, not, well, it's not, basically, we've got to be a movement of growth. But my point is that, even if we disagree on those issues and we can't come to common agreement on fiscal policy, we can agree that we're not going to bank out, we're not going to offer bailouts to favored sectors or favored companies. We're not going to, we're not going to be engaged in completely eroding people's voice in Washington, as we've been doing with big money. We're not going to be surrendering American jobs to these horrible trade deals, which is a very misguided approach. I mean, again, by the way, Buca, I think you agree with me. That's just another misrepresentation by the Clinton and other crowds to be saying, and the Never Trump guys especially, to be saying that Trump's a protectionist. I mean, I view trade sanctions kind of like nuclear weapons. You need to have them, and you need to have them so you don't have to use them. But if you don't have them, you're going to be prone to aggression and malevolence on the other side of the negotiating table. And that's basically been what's been going on now for decades in American trade policy.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think I think there's a wave that's going to come out of these emails and I don't mean Hillary's emails. I mean this dump of DNC emails. When they're making fun of African American women's names, they're calling the Latino outreach movement the Taco Bowl. Yep. They outright insult the people who are their core believers, core followers. I'm telling you, I think there's a swell of people getting tired of that bullshit.
Well, and I said last week they put that statement out, or I guess it was just yesterday. They put the statement out. I don't know if you read it, but they put a statement out saying that those sentiments did not speak for the true beliefs of the Democratic Party. And I was thinking to myself, those are the exact sentiments that speak for the Democratic Party. What you see when they're not looking reflects who they really are. And quite honestly, I've sat in thousands of meetings now and discussions and whatnot with, in both in the DC capacity and a grassroots conservative leadership Tea Party capacity, and have never once really heard things described in any way that I would deem racist or homophobic or, maintaining gender bias. Frankly, not even once. I can't think of one example. And yet when I talk to people on the left, and maybe you experience this too, everything seems to come back to that with them. You know what I mean? It's all about them segmenting the voter population into their little boxes. And once they get them in the little boxes, then they can offer them their favors and tell them that they're threatened. And this division strategy by gender, by ethnicity, by sexual orientation, by religion, it's all designed to allow them to obtain and maintain power. And whereas I think we do recognize, I believe that there are challenges in certain, segments of demography, but mostly we want the same for everyone, and that's, I think, one of the real distinguishing points between contemporary liberalism and contemporary Tea Party conservatism.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we watched something here, being close to Orlando. I will tell you that tragedy that happened at the nightclub in Orlando was the second most life-touching thing I've ever gone through. Behind me seeing the space shuttle blow up, and I watched churches around here. I watched conservatives around here reach out around the homosexual community in Orlando, around that gay club, in a way that you will not see the press report. You will not. All you will hear from Democrats is homophobic. And I'm telling you, there's a change going on in the population where people, they just don't buy the bullshit of the DNC anymore. They just don't take it carte blanche. It's not just a given anymore.
Well, it's amazing that you mentioned the Space Shuttle Challenger, because that was around the time in my life when I'm starting to get interested, not just in politics, but in political rhetoric. And obviously, the speech Reagan gave in January of '86, after that, might be one of the most beautifully written and delivered speeches in our lifetime by any president. When he talked, particularly in the closing, about them slipping into the surely bonds of earth and touching the face of God. I mean, it put in perspective this disaster that all of a sudden people said, yeah, what a horrible development. But it put in context the magnitude of what these great, astronauts were trying to do and what they dedicated their life to doing. And then you look at the reaction that we just got in Orlando or Paris or Nice or Munich, or you go on and on, right? I mean, now in France again yesterday in Normandy. I mean, there's nothing being said that puts in any perspective what's going on. You get this president who comes out and immediately turns the topic on its head, begins speaking about something that frankly isn't even germane to what's at issue here, refuses to identify, as everyone's correctly pointed out on our side, the enemy by name, which is not a small thing. You can't win a war when you can't define the enemy. And has essentially no plan to stop it. Not only does it have no plan to stop it, but the very things that have allowed this to transpire, which is to say unregulated, legal and illegal immigration into this country, he continues to champion as being some sort of solution. And again, it's sold with all these cliches, and Paul Ryan too. That's not who we are. Well, hold on, what does that mean? That's not who we are? Who we are is the first and foremost putting our people first and defending them from foreign threats. When you have ISIS enclaves and activity in all 50 states now, which is a product of an open border and a product of overstayed visas and a product of no one screening people coming into this country, that's not who we are. And it's crucial that we not back down to this, because it's always the rhetoric used by the establishment, whatever phrase you want to use, the left, the establishment, the globalist establishment. It's always designed to make us feel bad, like we're not sufficiently compassionate. Well, the most compassionate thing we could do right now would be to solve this problem, because it is so easily solved. And yet, because of political greed and financial greed, both parties in Washington have been co-conspirators in allowing this thing to go on.
Of course. And I tell you, that's all you have to do. And I've been saying this for years. Just follow the money. If you start with both parties, follow the money backwards, you end up going to the same people.
That's
And,
right.
and so at the end of the day, that's another thing that has drawn me to Trump. I'm telling you, man, that right now there's one issue for me. It is destroying this enemy that you said it. We're in a global world war. I have a son who's out fighting it in the military. I have 5 other kids that every one of them. Thank God we're born in the South, man, because every one of our kids knows how to handle a weapon. Every one of them.
Yep.
And we used to do it because what? We went hunting. And now you got to do it. Now you got to start talking to your kids about where they need to look at when they sit in a restaurant, what they need to plan, what they need to think of if something happens. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we didn't talk like this. We didn't think like this. And we have this apathetic man who honestly, I don't even want to go in that direction, but he doesn't care. He thinks that he walks on water, and he thinks that things are playing out exactly how he wants it. And unfortunately, he's right. And it is setting all of us up in a very dangerous position. And we need somebody who's going to come in and do the job that has to be done. And when Reagan fought the Cold War, we built those nukes. It was, look, dude, you're not going to pick on the strongest guy on the block. You're just not, because you're going to get your ass handed to you. Well, for 8 years, we got a guy who likes to lead from behind, whatever the hell that means. And all of our little enemies, all these little punk asses, all of a sudden they think they're these big bad guys because nobody does anything.
Oh, you're totally right. Of course, I mean the mannerisms through which we carry ourselves, even the minor things. Like I was just saying the other day that the way we handled Netanyahu with making him walk in the side door at the White House and treating him walking out of a meeting in the middle of it. Those things get noticed in there. I've been all over the world, in the Arab world, and Asia and Africa. I mean, they're looking and watching what's going on, and they're trying to get. If you're sitting right now in the middle, right? You're saying, well, gee, I don't really know which side of this is it, I want to come down on. We give absolutely no reason for confidence in the United States of America. We're telling you that we're going to draw lines in the sand in Syria and not honor them. We're going to leave 4 of our best to die in Benghazi and then lie about what really happened. This stuff gets watched, it gets seen, and there's just dozens of these examples over the last 7.5 years from this administration.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's infuriating. And I tell you, I think, look, at the end of the day, people are going to walk into that ballot box and they are going to go, how is Hillary going to protect me? She wants to leave the borders open. She doesn't want to talk about the real enemy. Now she's trying to talk about ISIS like she's been on board. I got to be honest with you. If you watch 13 Hours,
yeah,
you will despise her. You will despise that woman if you don't already.
By the way, I was a little bit involved with 13 Hours, and I'll tell you, if anything, 13 Hours was even a little bit lenient on her. And you're right about the reaction that people got from that movie.
No, it's nuts.
So, story completely accurately as well.
I've got a couple more questions for you. I know you're busy. So spending your time at the RNC last week.
Yeah.
Give your overall opinion of coming together, because I'm going to tell you what, the DNC is a train wreck. It looked from a television point of view like there was a coming together outside of the 20 minutes where Ted Cruz stuck his head up his ass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what Ted Cruz did, and I think it's indefensible. And fortunately, I think even some Cruz fans admit that it was indefensible. I think that at this point, when you have a man who's with you on just about everything and is in a neck-and-neck race with someone that you know is going to be disastrous. And, oh, by the way, when we were going through the issues with Trump, he's vetted his Supreme Court and federal court appointees through the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation. I don't know anyone who's done that in the modern era. So we should feel really good about his position on constitutional issues too, which has been their big reservation. Even Ted Cruz's campaign didn't do that. I don't know what he thought he was accomplishing, and I think I think it might have been Charles Krauthammer who said that his speech to the RNC was the longest suicide note in American political history, because I honestly lost a lot of respect for the man.
Well, I can tell you my personal feeling as before Trump got in, before Trump even talked about it, the entire time I go, oh, I'm going to vote for Ted Cruz because he's as much of an outsider as you can get. I liked him. Trump came around and I said, hey, I'm in. I'm on Trump. It wasn't against Ted. It was more for Trump. And
yeah, I looked at a few things, and maybe it's, having worked in the Senate and knowing the procedure and stuff, but when he voted for cloture on the TPA, the trade authority that gave Obama the extra constitutional authority to negotiate this horrible trade agreement, and then was bombarded with calls, mostly from our Tea Party movement, saying, what are you doing? And then went down on the floor, and I don't believe represented accurately what transpired there. That concerned me. When I saw the 500% increase in H-1B visas that he proposed when nobody was looking, that concerned me.
sure.
And these are to be fair, this guy is great on so many issues, and he's a valuable senator, and I will gladly work for his reelection down there. But I feel that there's just a little bit of too much of the DC inside the Beltway stuff going on with them. I mean, we need to be able to say, we're not playing this game anymore, because it's not something you can flirt with. Once you start flirting with it, you're part of it. And once you're part of it, you're part of the problem.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, what I was going to say is what he did in his speech is he literally ended his campaign for the next election before it started. And
Yeah.
he thinks he did exactly the opposite.
Well, and I can't, I don't know. I mean, it's up to, obviously, Mr. Trump, but I can't imagine he won any favor for any court appointment. He would have been a superb Supreme Court nominee. And I don't think he can help himself there either. I mean, honestly, I think the guy would be just exceptional on the Supreme Court. I felt that from the very beginning.
Well, there should have been a TVMA notice on the screen, because he screwed himself on national television. It was something to see.
To answer your question, though, it was a great convention. I mean, I spoke at the Citizens for Trump rally on Monday night, I guess it was. Yeah, I guess it was 8 days ago, and it was fantastic. There's so much energy and well attended and pretty well covered. And then the fascination in the convention itself with the agenda. And even the acceptance speech too. It was just very well received. I think people saw that this is a man who gets what's going on with our country. He understands the challenges. He also understands the potential, and he's going to unleash that potential. And I just think that if you were out there, there wasn't much of a division. There was a little bit of rumblings those first few days, but it was mostly just a few people that had kind of a disproportionate voice and things. But once the convention got underway, aside from that closing paragraph, if Cruz had rewritten that closing paragraph, it would have been nearly flawless convention.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Well, I tell you what I find amazing, and I'm going to ask you my last thing in a second is Hillary doesn't want to build a wall, but they sure built a big ass fence around the DNC, didn't they?
Two of them, in fact. I noticed today when I was over there that they have, with the protesters, they have one fence and then like a little bit of room and then a second fence. And Paul Ryan, by the way, has built a huge fence around his house in Wisconsin. There's lots of examples. We're in a world of hypocrisy, and we got to call it out when we see it. And honestly, you want to protect the country or don't you? You want to have a country. Because if you're not protecting the border, you don't have a country. Reagan said that. He was absolutely right. Without a border, we have nothing. We have nothing. And I think that while we have so many issues confronting the country, this just seems like such a no-brainer. And the American people are just so overwhelming with us. And by the way, I'm sick of hearing that it's alienating for Hispanics. All right, the people who are saying that don't know many Hispanics. I noticed. I've logged a lot of time in Florida. Many of my closest friends Cuban Americans, University of Miami, and many Hispanic political activists that I hold in high esteem and know, they don't view this thing any differently than anybody else does. In fact, in many respects, a lot of them know exactly how important it is because they've seen how dangerous the criminal element and terrorist element is within Latin America, and the willingness that many of these people have to do us harm.
Well, I'm going to tell you, my kids, their mom is Hispanic, and her family, brothers, sister, mom, dad, they came over here about 25 years ago, and they went through the process, man. They went through the system. They followed the rules that were in place, and it took years.
Yeah.
Up to 4, 5, 6, 7 years to do it the right way. And they were proud and they were excited. And it was a huge moment. I'll never forget any one of them. I saw every one of them. And become a U.S. citizen. And there was such pride and there was such admiration. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're pissed off that people are coming across the border. And forget about the terrorist threat. Just people, look, and it's the same thing. They're not saying they don't want them. I'm not saying I don't want them. Follow the rules. We are a nation of rules, a nation of laws. That's why this whole machine has worked really well for over 200 years. And the reason it's not is because we have this gentleman in the White House who thinks the rules don't apply. And guess what? Everybody else sees it and they go, well, shit, the rules don't apply for me either.
And a lot of us warned the country in 2008 that was where he was ideologically, and his appeal, of course, was that he had, he really was so little known, to be honest. But for those of us who were closer to it, we said it, and not only did no one want to hear it, but people like John McCain told us to zip it, So we got, in some respects, that because we didn't educate the American people. Now American people, I think, sort of figured it out now the hard way, but we have millions of people who have been so harmed and hurt and are hurting right now. This country is hurting. We're in a very state of significant pain. If you don't understand that as a candidate, and many of these Republicans and most of these Democrats do not understand that, then you're not helping things. You got to realize this is like all hands on deck emergency situation based on decades of bad policy making.
Well, and I'm telling you what, people want somebody who's going to fight. You remember, brother, you watched McCain debate Obama. You watched Romney debate Obama, and we're sitting there yelling at the TV, telling them to slam them, and they want to take the high road. Screw the high road. I don't want my country flushed down the frickin' toilet.
Well, and it's been really the high road when you're denying explaining the truth to the American people. In some respects, that's the low road. That's putting yourself above country. And that's the problem I have with the way this convention is going down in Philadelphia now, too, is, you listen to what Michelle Obama said the other night. It sounded like, well, gee, isn't she so nice? No, they're the most ruthless people in the world. And they talk this game of saying, let's not, they depict every political enemy as being embracing hate because they can't argue the policy issues, and they lose the debate on an intellectual level, and they've got to depict everybody as kind of the devil or, Hitler or whatever you want to say. And it's, I think the American people more or less heard enough of it. I think I agree with you what you said earlier, Buca. I think we got a good shot at winning this thing. It's not won till it's won. Best advice I can give people, get involved with the Trump campaign. This guy is a good man. I vouch for him. And get involved with the Tea Party movement. We're going to support Trump. And we're going to support good candidates around the country for House and Senate and in states, on state and community levels. And, I'm just, I'm very humbled by the whole thing. And I'm learning a lot. Just interacting with the people. I'm seeing things that I wish politicians would see,
Well, do me a favor. Take the last 2 minutes that we've got you here, and you're in charge. Talk to the Never Trump people.
Well, there's only, you start with the fact that one of two people at this point are going to be president of the United States, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Okay, so Hillary Clinton is going to continue a failed policy of not defeating our enemies, not defending our borders, outsourcing our jobs. By the way, take a look at that speech she gave, I think, when she was over in India, where she described as Secretary of State outsourcing as being inevitable and that there was nothing that could be done to reverse it. You know, I'm sure that's video that she wished it never was out there. You know, it has no commitment to the American working class, is completely corrupt. The one common denominator of this woman, I'm not talking about just the Secretary of State, I'm saying the one common denominator of her all the way back to Little Rock has been her corrupt demeanor and nature. And I'm one of those people whose FBI files she went through when she was going through FBI files just several days into the Clinton administration, where she ordered all the files. And they were going through them. They were going through every Bush political appointee alphabetically, trying to find out what they could find out. Like it was like no due process, no procedure, nothing. And then, you know, the Rose Law Firm and Whitewater, and unfortunately, a lot of, and then the complete scandalous denunciations of these women that have been victimized or allegedly victimized by Bill Clinton. She's done nothing for women's rights in this country or around the world for the most part. Certainly around the world, she's been utterly quiet, while women's rights have been decimated in the Arab world. So if your inclination, you know, is, hey, maybe the time's come for a woman president, yeah, we got to have one. It's not her. And for the Never Trump crowd, get over it. We had a really bitter primary. I'm kind of sorry that happened. And I think you're going to see in Trump a guy that everyone of good intention can work with and be proud of.
I agree. Look, down here in the South, the people you fight with the most are your family, your cousins. You beat the crap out of each other. But I guarantee you, when somebody pushes them around there, that you're the first one to have their back. That's how we do it down here. Yeah. And that's what everybody needs to do. Everybody needs to suck it up, man up, and vote. And for guys like George Will and everybody who's left the party, bye. Don't come back. We don't want you. We don't need you because you created this crap.
Not exactly, you know, and I'm not in the business necessarily of making enemies, but I don't really know what he did for us in the first place. So
yeah, exactly.
Go watch a few baseball games and maybe I'll catch one with you. But I don't feel he's ever been at our side at any point in these battles. And by the way, you mentioned Florida. There's a few areas in this country on a micro level that are crucially important for Trump. And one comes back to that famous I-4 corridor down there. And, you know, he has got to be able to take that sort of Tampa to Daytona, you know, region. And, you know, the people in that region that understand everything that we've talked about here have got to understand this election could well be in their hands. That's true in suburban Philadelphia, too. It's true out in Allegheny County in Pennsylvania. A number of crucial areas in Ohio. I mean, you can really drill this down almost to a county basis in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, some other crucial states, and say, you know, there's almost a disproportionate burden in those regions to really get out and spread the message and assert yourself.
Well, brother, I tell you what, I appreciate it. Everybody go check out teapartycommunity.com. Connect with Michael Johns on Twitter, on Facebook, and Michael, as the election goes on, we're going to have you on more and more. I hope you're open to that.
Very much, Buca. I appreciate all you're doing, man. I really do, and thanks for having me. And I look forward to chatting with you soon.
All right, buddy. God bless. Thank you.
Bye.
So I tell you what, guys, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I want you to do me a favor. We've got our first sponsor. Check them out. It's Remedy Spray, and all natural sleep spray. Brand new company. Click the link. Go read about it. If you're looking for a little opportunity to make some money, not MLM, not direct sales, nothing like that. Just an open opportunity. Check them out, and you can get a free sample. They'll send it to you. We are going to have Sawyer Burmeister on, another Trump hero in about 5 minutes. So we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. All right, look, everybody's here for Sawyer. I don't blame you. We're hopefully she'll be able to come in nice and easily. We had a little hiccup there with Michael Johns. Guys, check him out. Tea Party community. They're doing some great things, and they're fighting for us. Again, do me a favor. Our sponsor for the whole episode, Remedy Spray. Check them out on the link on BucaNation.com. Click that link; it'll take you to Remedy Spray, RemedySpray.com, and ask for a free sample. You won't be sorry. As a matter of fact, that's it. These are the beta rounds of the company, and they sent me one, and it's awesome. So we'll be getting started in just a minute whenever Sawyer pops on. I'm going to send her a text right now. We're working to get her logged in right now. Be right back, guys. See what it says. Okay. There you are.
Perfect. All right.
All right. Hold on one second. Oh, hey there, young lady.
Hello, how are you?
No, I'm sorry. That was my fault, guys. I messed that up. Let me put you. Let's make you the predominant one in this conversation.
Perfect.
So, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm all right. We just had a good. Why am I not bringing you up? Hold on one. This is what you get for being your own producer. There you go. Well, welcome to BucaNation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we just had Michael Johns on. He is one of the original Tea Party folks.
I did.
And you get to listen a little bit. Well, he's actually at the DNC convention right now.
I heard he's going to blow me out of the water. So
No way. No way. No, he's not. I've got people more excited about you coming on.
Oh, perfect.
So, let's talk about you a little bit. Let's talk about your background and fill us in on who you are and what you do, and then we'll talk about the last month and a half of craziness.
Absolutely. So I'm from Texas, if you can't tell with this accent, and I grew up with like a rodeo cutting horse background history. My mom is in the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, so there was no getting around being a cowgirl per se. So I've grown up showing cutting horses. I've been fortunate enough to have a family that's put me on some of the best horses in the world, and I managed to win the world a couple times, and then I actually represent South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas at the National Finals Rodeo. This will be my 7th year doing that. So I have a huge rodeo horse background, and somehow I've managed to get myself in the middle of politics.
Well, that's all right. We'll get there in a second. So
Yep.
now, in the rodeo world, do you tour the circuit and everything?
I did. Well, so I didn't tour rodeo. I did the cutting horse world. So it actually is its own.
It's its own thing.
Yes, yeah. They don't have cutting within rodeo, but I did have to attend multiple rodeos. My mom was an equine sports broadcaster after being inducted in the Cowgirl Hall of Fame. So I was at a rodeo every weekend, just about growing up.
Well, we every a couple times a year we go to Silver Spurs, which is the big rodeo here in Orlando.
I know much about it.
I'm sure you do. And like I told you on the phone, I have my daughter-in-law does barrel racing, so it's it's what we do here in the South, isn't it?
It is. It's the South. You can't get around it. But yeah, so I've been involved with that, and then I've always had like a dream of pursuing law. So I have a criminal justice background, and I eventually may get into that. Right now, I've, like I said, kind of gotten in the world of the politics, and I've left my home of Fort Worth, and I'm now in Austin, Texas, which seems to be second to Washington, D.C. And I've been involved in a lot of charities lately, and I've tried to give back. I'm only 24, and I feel like the younger you start giving back, the better. So
I'm into that. You're only 24. Oh, that's painful. My wife and I, we have 6 kids that range from 21 to 12. So it's
you got your hands full.
We are busy. So tell me a little bit about this crazy tweet. What happened and what's happened since?
Oh, with Mr. Donald Trump, our Republican nominee.
He's the one.
Well, it was a little bit shocking. I've always kind of had a social media following, and I've always been kind of like a sarcastic person. You either love it or you hate it. Sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. And
I like you already.
Especially in Austin, there's a lot of, liberals, so I have to bite my tongue every now and then. But I posted a tweet on Twitter about this time last year saying, if Hillary Clinton can't satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy America? And I had no idea it was going to blow up. In my defense, I had just had knee surgery. So the pain meds may or may not have influenced that decision to post something.
Drugs made you do it, huh? There you go.
Maybe. But, and I posted it. I think I ran a lot of errands in Fort Worth during the day. And so I didn't even get back on Twitter. And all of a sudden I started receiving all of these emails and these tweets and direct messages saying, did Donald Trump make you delete your tweet? And what has Donald Trump said to you? Is he paying you off? And I was like, what are you all talking about? I had a lot of backlash from the tweet. And so I'm like, okay, forget it. I'll get rid of this. And I deleted it. And then I made another sarcastic comment, and said, y'all get some rest. There's clearly a lot bigger problems in this world. If you're wearing Sawyer Burmeister's tweet, you got an issue. And I guess that backfired as well. And little did I know Donald Trump had retweeted my tweet, which only added fuel to the fire. And so there was no getting around it. They're deleting it or not. There was screenshots. It was on the internet. And I guess, you learn a lesson. Once you put something on the internet, it doesn't go away.
Well, I don't know why you took it down in the first place.
I kind of regretted it. I regretted taking it down because I'm one that, I'm going to stick to my guns. If I say something, I'm going to back it up. And I'm usually not going to say anything if I can't back it up. But, my boyfriend always says, one good thing about it is Hillary Clinton has said your name and she does not like you. So, well.
See, there's a plus right there.
Yeah.
So look, here's what you know about liberals, especially those little pansy-ass ones that are in Austin. They're going to be offended 5 minutes later from somebody else. So just leave your tweet up next time and let them run off and get offended somewhere else.
That is a good way to look at it.
That is a life lesson. So how long he just retweeted it, and then tell me about the press and all that. I'm sure you've been interviewed by better people than me. So he retweeted it. He claims that, one of his staffers retweeted it. And of course I'm backing Trump currently now, but, at the time it was another, really, your staff did it, again, if you're going to do something, you got to back it up. You might as well stick with your guns on it. So it was deleted, but there was multiple people that had already, got screenshots of it and posted it out there. And I was asked to do interviews, and the first one I did, I had someone asking, did he pay you to delete it and all this? And I, at this point, still had no idea he had even retweeted it. So I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And then I saw that all of a sudden was starting to get published everywhere. So I've always been pretty smart with my mom in the broadcasting. I was absolutely no interviews. I don't want anything to do with it. Take me out of this. And, it still got out there. My brother was in the Navy, and he sent me a text like, Sawyer, you're on Face the Nation right now. What did you do? So, I got to be. This is not a good testament to where our country is right now. That your little horse riding self can send out a tweet that topples the entire country. Oh, good God, we've got problems, woman.
Exactly. That was my thoughts on it. Was, there are so many more problems in this world, and some people have nothing better to do than to make an issue over a tweet. That's what our world is, though, these days. It's all about social media, and it's completely involved with social media. So.
Oh yeah, everybody I know has told me not to do what we're doing right now. They said, you don't want to start an internet show. I go, yeah, I want to start an internet show. Everybody wants to see me. They said, no, you don't. But here's the good news. I put my foot in my mouth every day. I'm used to it. So a couple of 100 million people seeing it ain't gonna change nothing.
For sure. If you're speaking the truth, what's it hurt? I didn't say anything that I can tell you that a lot of people don't agree with, or that they do agree with. Either way.
Oh, I'm pretty sure your original tweet was spot on. I'm pretty sure there hasn't been any pleasing Bill for quite a long time.
Yeah, he'll definitely be, I'm sure, in the interview process for the new interns if she wins.
You just made me laugh. That other dude didn't make me laugh once. You just made me laugh. We're not having him back on anymore. We'll have you on instead. So I got a question for you. I'm assuming you, now 24, you probably didn't watch a lot of last week's convention, but I'm sure you watched some of it.
I watched a little bit. Again, you can catch up really fast when you're involved in the world. I really love what I'm doing right now, and being in the world of politics. My boyfriend and I watched it nonstop until I took this job, and now I kind of get away and I'll keep up with it, but I've never realized the true meaning of when you leave work, you leave work. So it's like I come home and I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch the same thing I just watched all day long on TV.
So what's your job right now? Who if you could tell us what you could tell us.
Yeah, I took a job with Honorable Kent Hance. He is currently the interim chancellor of Texas Tech. He was a U.S. congressman, Texas Railroad commissioner, and he was a state senator. He's actually the only person to ever beat George W. Bush in an election. There
you go. Somebody had to do it. Might as well be him.
Yeah, he's basically known as the dean of the Republican Party, and he is fantastic. I couldn't look up to anyone more than I do him. He's funny, he's charismatic, and he can, in the flip of a switch, get down to business. And that's the kind of person, I couldn't pick a better person to go to work for if I got involved in this field. What
does he think about this whole thing?
He did ask me today. He said, "So I saw your tweet. What are you doing?" And I explained I was going to do like a web radio show and kind of talk about what I grew up doing and about the current politics. And he said, "Well, what are you going to say about the current politics?" And I said, "Well, I'll pretty much tell it what I think. And I think Hillary Clinton is about the worst thing we could possibly do to our country. And I'm not necessarily a Donald Trump fan, but I'm one that's going to stand behind the Republican Party and stick with Republican values. And that's what we got to do."
So did the whole state of Texas gasp last week when your good senator pissed everybody off?
Pretty much. I've seen a lot of terrible comments towards Mr. Ted Cruz. And, I wasn't necessarily a Cruz supporter by any means. To be honest, I was a John Kasich supporter from the get-go. I liked the person who didn't try to cause any riffraff and was genuine and nice and wasn't too diehard left and wasn't too diehard right. He was, fairly in the middle, but stuck more to the conservative values. And to be honest, I respect Ted Cruz more now than I did before, only because, I totally get you should get behind the Republican nominee. Now that Donald Trump's it, we got to all get together and stand behind him and support him. But if someone was to call out my spouse or my father or my mother the way that Donald Trump did to him, why would you back someone like that? And it's not necessarily saying he's not going to vote for Donald Trump or not going to back the Republican nominee, but I wouldn't stand up in front of a crowd and endorse him. But I feel like he was set up for that too. I feel like he should have never been brought on the RNC to ever even speak. I mean, they should have known better. I feel like he was set up so that he could never run for president in 2020.
Yeah, well, I think that's what's going to happen from it. If God forbid, if Hillary wins, well, screw it, it's over anyway. I mean, we're all gonna. I'm going to Mexico. I'll go the other way.
Yeah, I have definitely one of the girls in the office and I have looked at homes other places just to be safe.
I'm just hoping he wins, so all these liberals that keep saying they're going to leave the country. How awesome would that be? Mm-hmm. Just think of all those liberals in Austin if they left. You'd really like Austin then, wouldn't you?
I would like the traffic a lot better, that's for sure. But, I do think Hillary could be about the worst possible thing for the country. I just don't understand how you can hire such a blatant liar. Someone to steal all of the kitchen utilities within the White House and completely gets away. They said it was like $60,000 worth of kitchen stuff she stole from the White House and just no problem whatsoever.
You're so sweet. Of all the things that you could pick to badmouth Hillary, You're talking about.
For sure. But I mean, even to them, that's the lowest of the totem pole. And that's still, you know, any other person that steals that amount, they're in prison.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be fun having a commander in chief.
That's a good way to put it. I haven't heard of that yet.
Well, so what are your political aspirations?
You know, I've been trying to figure that out a lot lately. You know, at first I was really wanting to go into the law, and I always will have a passion for criminal justice. But I don't know. My boss asked me that when I first met him. He asked if I ever thought about maybe holding a seat in office. And, you know, that kind of sparked something in my head. Like maybe one day, I don't know, maybe I'll run for House or Senate. I'm not sure. I'm only 24, so I have to wait at least another year.
Well, look, if we're talking about Bill was governor when he was like 26, something crazy like that. But it was Arkansas, so and he was married to his sister, I'm pretty sure.
Quite possibly, yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know where it'll take me. I'm definitely learning a lot now. So getting involved in this, I wanted to do first to see, is this anything, you know, I want to be involved in, especially at a time like this when everybody hates politics with a burning passion.
So here's what I want you to do. I said this to Michael earlier, and I think it's much more apropos that you do it. 24 years old, and you're a conservative. Talk to all these young people who were just following Bernie Sanders like a madman, and tell them why they need to take a look at our side.
Yeah, poor Bernie Sanders soul. That poor guy. I watched him earlier at the DNC just a little bit, and, you know, had tears in his eyes for, you know, the people standing up for him. And it's sweet. It really is sweet to have a dream. That's the great thing about America. It's just not going to happen. And
he's the nicest communist I know. That's awesome.
He really is. You know, I'm sure he's a great guy. Nothing against him, but I don't know where his ideas are coming from or who he thinks is going to pay for all of this stuff that he wants. That, you know, that's I've heard of a lot of younger kids. I don't know what it is about all the college kids that want to vote for Bernie Sanders or want him to be president, and they think they're going to get free college, and half of them, their parents are already paying for their college. So I'm not sure where their concern is at.
Yeah.
That or scholarships. I don't get it. None of, you know, you can't have all this money and where is it going to come from, and where is it truly going to go to? And then you look at the downfall of free education. Even who's going to pay the teachers? I mean, the teacher, I think a teacher, I date a teacher. I live with a teacher. That is the hardest job I think anyone could have. You have to put up with brats. You have to put up with good kids. You have to put up with their parents. That might be even worse.
That's worse. And
nobody's going to pay them. And they're already getting gypped on their pay anyways. I think education is extremely important, especially higher education, but it doesn't come free by any means. And I actually watched an interview, I think it might have been on Fox News, with a girl who was a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, and she claimed that the 1% of America is going to pay for everybody's education. And they're going to get taxed, I think, 90%.
Well, that's fair. That's the way to do it.
But she was okay with it. And, you know, the broadcaster asked, so, you know, your friends are going to work really hard, and then they're going to be in the top 1% or the top 10% even, and they're going to be okay with you thinking that's good. And she was diehard all about it. It's some people, they want free education, and they should get education because they are not educated by any means. I'm not sure where the money is going to be coming from. Well,
it's hard to have an education when you're not listening because your head's in a place it shouldn't be. But see, I'm trying to be nice because I wasn't being polite with him. I'm trying to be polite with you.
It's okay. I don't mind.
No.
It's to say whatever's on their mind.
Well,
so.
Here's what I do with my kids. I told my one son, I said, you go mow the lawn. I told my other son, you sit down and watch TV. And my son who's mowing the lawn, I said, I'm going to pay you $20, but you got to give 10 of that to him who's watching TV. Mm-hmm. There you go. Socialism.
Yeah, they have no idea, you know, and I mean, that's the problem. There's a lot of problems in the world, though, and I think that's just adding fuel to the fire. That's a typical Democrat value, is let's spend money that we don't have.
It's other people's money. That's the best kind, right? Other people's money.
Of course.
And we want Hillary spending it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm assuming your political background comes a lot from mom and dad, or are they much like you, or are you the black sheep of the family? I doubt that.
It goes both ways. I mean, I definitely don't have any Hillary supporters whatsoever in my family. None. You know, and whoever would be a Hillary supporter might get disowned from the family or cut out of the will. But they all despise her. They are probably more conservative than I am. And that's probably just me being, you know, the younger generations. They're definitely diehard Trump fans. I have two sets of family. My parents are split, and they're all Trump supporters and hate Hillary Clinton, which I get because, you know, I wasn't around when Hillary Clinton was in the White House, so I don't know from what I've heard and what I've learned. So it makes it a little different when, you know, they lived it and they hate her that much more. But like I said, you know, I supported John Kasich in the beginning, and, you know, that wasn't liked amongst my family. Everybody's, you know, on the Trump train, and I guess I have to join the Trump train too.
Well, look, it's what I told Michael earlier. I like John Kasich. My dad loved John Kasich for all the reasons you said and more. My dad's a very intellectual type. He likes to think things through and not react quickly, and I'm exactly the opposite. Mm-hmm. I like to react and then think about it later. Yeah. But right now, we need somebody who's going to fight.
Absolutely.
And he can, John Kasich can stand up there and say he's a fighter, and everybody knows Trump's a fighter. I can't wait to be watching debates between Trump and Hillary, because I promise the last thing Trump is going to talk about is the China that they stole coming out of the White House.
Yeah.
And I'm busting your chops.
It's okay.
We need somebody who's going to fight, and that's what the country wants right now. They want a fighter. And honestly, that's why your tweet became so popular so fast, because you made a fighting statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. I know America's fed up, and that's why he is winning. And you know, the Make America Great Again is winning. All of it's winning, and I think America just looks at enough is enough. And you know, the people who kind of just sat back and constantly just gone with the flow have had enough. And that may have sparked it even more with the fact that Hillary Clinton is running. You know, they need somebody up there who can go against her and can fight against her and can really break her down and tear her apart, compared to I guess.
See, even when I was younger than you, I was around when Reagan was president, and that's what this reminds me of. Because Reagan talked about winning and being the best and being the tops, and now we have a president who says it's as good as it's going to get. We've seen our best days. People don't want to hear that. We are a country that wins. You bust your butt in the cutting circuit because you want to win. You don't go out there you don't want to come in second.
Absolutely.
And for me to look at my kids and to look at you, and we have a president who's telling them it's as good as it's going to get. Why would anybody have hope? Why would anybody anywhere have hope? And then Trump comes along and he starts saying, we're going to make America great again. And I'm going to tell you what, through this whole thing, this whole election, you've got me more stoked than anybody I've talked to. And I'm not joking, because you're 24 years old and you think the way you're thinking. And it gives me and anybody who's watching now and anybody who's going to watch hope that there is another generation coming up who gets the right way. It's not handouts. It's working your butt off. Again, I'm watching my language. This is all for you, by the way.
Well, thank you. No, I totally agree. You know, I was hoping, if anything, maybe a third party would come out of this. obviously it's not, but I was looking for a third party of people to realize that the middle class matters. We focus so much on the lower class needing money, and the upper class, we need to take away their money, but nobody looks at the middle class, the hardworking people that, you know, go to work from 8 to 5 and are getting taxed the most, and we're left high and dry. And I was hoping that, you know, maybe that would influence the younger generations and those who are not as educated to look at, okay, no, you cannot get free education. And no, we're probably not going to build a wall and have the Mexican president pay for it. But somewhere we can meet in the middle, you know, go to work, and maybe we can have, you know, cheaper education to an extent, or, you know, make it easier for those illegal immigrants to come in here and become legal immigrant or legal.
Yep.
You know, it just make it not easier, but make it where you have to work for what you want, and make it where you can work for what you want. Not make it impossible, but not make it where you have to be plumb lazy in America. And a lot of that, people have become just plumb lazy, and they're proud of it. So, you know, I listen to, totally kind of off topic, but there's a radio station here in Austin where I listen to the video on YouTube, and the lady calls in and, you know, says that she has all this welfare and she gets all this money from the government, and she smokes pot all day and does nothing, and her kids have food stamps. I mean, and she's making, you know, a few thousand a month, and she says, why should I stop? Why should I go get a job? Why should, you know, I pay for my groceries and not let the government pay it? She, you know, and it was disgusting and repulsive, but at the same time, I, you know, accepted her bravery for calling and giving us the blunt truth of how terrible the government is, you know?
There are really two systems here. The political parties, there are people who go out and they earn, they make money, they make jobs, and then there's people who take, and that's it. You're one of the two. And listening to you, we definitely know where you are. I tell you, you were talking about Trump and the wall. Something I would suggest for you and anybody your age, especially some of these Bernie people. Everybody's brain exploded when Trump said we're going to have a wall, and that the Mexicans are going to pay for it. Read his book, The Art of the Deal. Have you ever read that book?
I have not.
Read that book, because what you've watched for the last year is the art of the deal in action. He's literally doing what he wrote in his book. So what you do is you start way up here. You say, this is what I'm doing, and it freaks everybody out. Well, you really want to be here, but if you start here and freak everybody out, they think, well, now he's willing to come down and can give concessions to come to here. He didn't give anything up, because this is where he wanted to be anyways.
Of course. That's
what we're watching. We're watching the wall. All he wants is better immigration. Guess what we're going to get out of it? We're going to get better immigration. Now, I won't be surprised if there is some kind of wall that gets built, and I have no problem with that, because I'm tired of what's happening. You know, I don't know. This is not the best topic in the world, but you see the terror that's going on all over this country. Of course. All over this planet. And as a dad of 6 kids, and you've got siblings, right?
I do.
See, for me, this election is about one thing. It's about safety.
I completely agree with that. I just look at it on a standpoint of, especially being in Texas, you know, we're right here at Mexico, and I totally get people wanting to come over here and create a better life for themselves. And a lot of them come over and they have a stronger work ethic than most of the people sitting here on their couches playing video games. My concern is obviously the biggest problem lately, and that's ISIS. And that lives within our thresholds already, sadly enough. And it is scary. Nowhere is safe right now. You know, you have to second guess, do I really want to go see this movie? I go to a movie theater. I'm a movie junkie. And I'm constantly watching everybody, because you just don't know. You don't know who could be radicalized today, tomorrow, yesterday. So that's my only standpoint, is I'm not too gung-ho about the wall. And I totally get, you know, setting your standards high. I'm all about that, because that way, if you set your standards high, you can somewhere meet down below. But if you set them low, there's nowhere to go but lower.
That's exactly right.
But I do think that the wall is not as big of a concern as ISIS is. But I do believe that Trump will get behind that. I think that he's going to be full force on trying to get rid of that. And he's already said, we're starting war with ISIS and we're getting rid of them, compared to our current commander-in-chief, who it seems like he supports them and doesn't seem, he's still calling them ISIL, for crying out loud. I swear he's the only person who is calling them ISIL.
You know why he does that, right?
I don't actually. I've always questioned.
Look it up later. It's a slam against Israel. Just know that and read it. It's a very long explanation, but really what he's doing is, when he calls it ISIL compared to ISIS, he is slamming Israel, because what ISIS really wants is they want the state of Israel as well, and that's called the Levant. And so that's why ISIL, he's ending it with the Levant, which means they get to take over Israel. You're right. He hates Israel. We know that. He treats them like dirt. But and I tell you, you're right. Trump's going to do something. I got to be honest with you. My son is in a hostile territory right now in the Marines, and I know that as soon as Trump's elected, he's going to be engaged, and that's a hard thing to think about.
Absolutely.
But you know what? We got to do what we got to do, because see, the fight used to be everywhere else. Now the fight's right here.
That's what happens when you take our troops away from over there. If you don't have our safety over here and you are fighting over there, it's going to come over here. We're basically opening up our borders, for that to happen here.
But the good news for you is you're in the right state, because I'm telling you right now, if the wrong person stands up in a movie theater, about 19 cowboys are going to shoot him before he can do anything.
Yeah, that you would hope, but all the current gun issues, is causing a problem with that. At least that I'm sure that is on the top of Hillary's priority list, it seems.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, and that's it. You just said it. We're in the South. Everybody down here has got a gun.
We just one, so last week.
All my kids have them. We all go out. We all go shoot. We know how to shoot them. If anybody in the South, anybody anywhere, but anybody in the South votes for Hillary, you're morons. The life we live and the life we love and the life we know as Southerners, it's gone. She's going to come at it full force.
Yeah, you can tell that that's a very important issue to her, even Obama. I mean, just with what happened in Dallas, the shooting of the 5 officers, they come in and, I think it's great he comes in and speaks about the officers, but then he lays out, the gun issues and the race issues while at, basically a funeral gathering. It's really sad that issues have gotten in the way of the safety of our country.
It's despicable. Guns don't kill people. Everybody says that guns don't kill people.
Yeah.
And let's prove it. Look what just happened in Japan. And again, this is horrible. I feel so bad talking about this with you, but you're the one in politics.
Yeah, no, I
have
the news daily. So, I mean.
19 people were killed with a knife.
Yeah, that's my thought is it's never going to be just guns. You can take away guns, and a criminal is a criminal. A person who wants to do something bad is going to do something bad. If someone wants to kill you and they can't get a gun, they're going to find a knife. And if you're going to take away the guns and the knives, they're going to find a bat. They're going to use their car. That's a deadly weapon that we are all in every day, the most of our days. So, if someone wants to do something, they're going to find a way to do it. I think taking away guns, I mean, you cannot amend our Constitution like that. It's just, I think really if they try to take away guns, it's going to be another world war.
It's going to be ugly. The good news is we're at least in the right part of the country for when it comes.
For sure. My dad is a huge hunter, so he has a big gun room. And I just know if ISIS starts coming up or zombies start coming up, that's exactly where I'm going.
That's exactly right. I'm working to have are you familiar with Tom Miranda, the hunter? Yes. We're working to get Tom on. We're just trying to fit it in his schedule.
Oh, that would be great.
So do me a favor. We only got about 5 or 10 minutes left. Talk to me a little bit about your the charitable things that you're doing and what you like doing.
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, I love to give back. I think the younger you start being knowledgeable about giving back, the better you are. So many people right now, I come from the entitlement age, and that generation thinks that what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine too. So last year, I really decided, I want to start doing something and helping the community. And I've always worked with a company that's called Charity Foundation, and they help those with cancer. And then I decided to really try to get involved just on my own without the help of others. And so I started giving back to Parker County Senior Center, which is in Weatherford, Texas. And they do Meals on Wheels, which is great. I had no idea what it was going to do to me, but it truly changed me. I have a different outlook on senior citizens. And so I started doing the Meals on Wheels and then raising money. And I was in somewhat of a competition with 5 other girls within my community to raise money. We each chose a charity. I chose the Senior Center and Meals on Wheels, and within 1 month, I raised over $23,000. And what's awesome is I had people that were not even in my community there. I had NFL football players and baseball players over the country that were donating money. The senior citizens within themselves donated over $3,000, and that was a lot of $1 bills and coins, which was awesome to see. Like, this is truly not, like, that's so far-fetched from the entitlement age. Here's people giving back to others just like them, taking money that they don't have and giving it back to them, to other senior citizens. And it was just really fun. It changed my whole outlook. Going to the homes with Meals on Wheels was really sad and uplifting. You see elderly people who have nothing. They don't have any family. They don't have friends. Sometimes you're the only person that they see every day, and you see them for, 5 minutes, if that depending on how long they can hold you hostage to talk in the house for a while. But it was life-changing. I really thought you have elderly people basically turn back into kids. And, if you can put a smile on someone's face to talk to them for a couple of minutes while bringing them lunch each day, I mean, that's an easy way to make someone's day and give back. And that, you don't even have to donate. That's just, changing someone's life each day just for it. And it takes, 30 minutes. They say it takes 30 minutes. It took me an hour about each time I went because, they kept talking and I kept talking. But yeah, so I gave $23,000. I think it was like $23,200 that 1 month. And then I've continued to give back and do Meals on Wheels, and then really try to push people to get involved. And luckily, the senior center that I worked with, they're building like a brand new building. They've received multiple donations afterwards. So it was really more than anything, it was getting the word out that I think made a difference. Maybe not even just the money. It was making awareness, and awareness can go a long ways, not just with charities, but with politics and education, all of it. That's our problem, is people are blind, and they don't open their mind and look many ways and try to take in as much as you can. You can never have too much knowledge about something. So.
Oh goodness, girl. I'm telling you right now. I'm motivated.
Yeah, it's great. I know you have the link on your website, and I'm sure there's senior centers in most communities, but I really pushed for this one right after I got all that money donated and got awareness out there. Alice Walton, who used to be, Walton Walmart, actually wrote a $25,000 check to the senior center that I helped out. So
outstanding.
Yeah,
well, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, social media can go a long ways. You can use it to your advantage.
That's exactly right. So, what's your next writing event?
Well, right now that I'm in Austin, I haven't been doing too much cutting this year. Like I said, I tore my ACL and my MCL last year, so I had surgery. That was those pain meds that caused some social upbringing. But I don't know when my next cutting horse show will be right now, but I will definitely be in Las Vegas in December. That's when the national finals rodeo is going on. It's the Super Bowl of rodeo, they say. So they have over
And what's the casino you represent?
South Point Hotel and Casino. They're the main sponsor, host hotel, other than Wrangler of the rodeo.
Let's give them a plug. Where are they off the strip?
They are, yeah. They have a big like 3 horse arenas, I think, and barns. So they don't quite fit on the strip. But
Oh, nice. That's cool.
they're great. I always tweet a bunch about them, especially right before the rodeo. We can usually give deals for hotel tickets. They sell out pretty fast. So we usually set everybody up with that.
Well, Sawyer, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. I've truly enjoyed it. You'll have to let me know when I can come back on again.
We'll have you on a lot. Like I told Michael, this election's going to go a long time. And then when Trump wins, we'll need to have you on. We're going to have you on to be the person that holds his ass to the, his butt to the fire.
Yeah, that sounds good. Like I said, it's just getting started. We have only just begun.
That's funny. Well, thank you for your time. I'm going to leave your link up there for the Meals on Wheels for the next couple of days. And then we're going to have this. I'm going to keep the replay on the website, and we'll also send it out across our social media tomorrow.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, young lady. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. God bless. Well, guys, I tell you what, I appreciate you hanging in there. This is only our second show, and we've got some great guests coming up Thursday night. If you're familiar with Robert Schuller, Reverend Robert Schuller, and his father was the preacher on the Hour of Power, I believe I'm correct, the biggest gospel show ever. The founder, Robert Schuller's son, Robert A. Schuller, who is now in charge of Robert Schuller Ministries, is going to be on. We're looking forward to that. And we're also going to have a gentleman by the name of John Haremza on. John is an author and a businessman. Grew up as a dyslexic kid, and he's now a multi-millionaire. And he went through everything where people told him he couldn't do it. And we're going to have John on to tell his story. I want to thank Michael Johns for taking time out at the DNC and just spending some time with us and talking to us about the state of this election and where things are going. And then I want to thank Sawyer. I'm telling you, that girl gives me so much hope. Our kids do the same for me. I'm telling you, this isn't a lost generation. We got some great kids. She's a wonderful young lady. I'd love to have the judge on. So Sawyer, sometime when you're talking to him, ask him to come on and tell us how he whipped W's butt in that election. And I'm going to end with this, guys. We have a sponsor for our show tonight, Remedy Spray. Check it out on BucaNation.com. Go check out Remedy Spray and ask for your free sample. And with that, we'll see you Thursday night. We're about 15 minutes early, but this ain't TV, so I can quit. I'm going to go drink some wine and smoke a cigar now. So thanks for everybody for joining us. We'll see you Thursday night.